Hello children, welcome back to Social Studies digital class. Children, in the previous class, we have discussed about Indian rivers and water resources, part 1, 5th lesson in your textbook. Today, we are going to discuss the second part of Indian rivers and water resources. It is going to be more interesting and as well as it is very important also. So, let us go for a quick recapitulation of what we have discussed in the previous class. Indian rivers and water resources, part 2. Recapitulation. In the previous class, we have discussed about the drainage system in India, that is the Himalayan rivers and the peninsular rivers, the water use, the inflows and the outflows of water in a region. Children, we will go understand now. We will discuss about what we are going to learn in this class. In this class, we will discuss about water use in Tungabhadra river basin, rational and equitable use of water. An example, Hivre Bazar, water as common pool resource, about the dispute over water use between Perumatti Gram Panchayat in Kerala and Coca-Cola Company. We will learn about the Tungabhadra river basin now. Tungabhadra river basin originates, river Tungabhadra originates in the Western Ghats with a catchment area of 71,417 square kilometers, of which 57,671 square kilometers are in Karnataka. Tungabhadra basin has two parts, the upper and middle catchment in Karnataka and the lower portion of catchment in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Children, now let us locate on the map of India where the river passes through. River Tungabhadra shares its water with three major states. They are Karnataka, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Children, let us now locate Tungabhadra as well as river Krishna on the map of India. Remember children, river Tungabhadra is a tributary of the major river system, that is river Krishna. Now, let us locate river Krishna as well as river Tungabhadra on the map of India. So, see the course of river Krishna first. See, it drains in Bay of Bengal, and then Tungabhadra, it originates at Western Ghats and it joins river Krishna. As I said, it is part of the tributary of river Krishna. Children, according to official statistics, farmland is the main cover in these states. Other lands such as trees, groves, fallow lands, cultivable waste and permanent pastures, forest and natural vegetation cover the rest of the area. Means farmland. What is farmland children? It is the agricultural land. It is the main region in the states where more cultivation takes place. Some of the territory is used for storage of water harvesting systems called tanks. So, some of the region is used for the storage of water harvesting system. They are built in the form of the tanks. Children, you can see the image of a dam in this picture. So, you can see how the dam is constructed. What is dam and how does the water flow? So, dam is a construction above the river and it is constructed for the purpose of conservation of water, to control the floods, as well as it is also used for generating the electricity and even for the irrigation purpose. Children, see here, you can also see another image of the dam in this video, and you can also see how does the water flows in this video. The lower portions of the basin in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh are characterized by low rainfall and drought condition. So, some regions in this in Telangana and Andhra, they depend upon rainfall as well as the groundwater. Some other regions depend upon the canal which are built along the Tungabhadra dam. Children, encouragement of public lands for cultivation is common. What is encouragement? Encouragement in the sense that some of the public lands are also occupied for the purpose of the cultivation. So, what does it result into? It results in more land being brought under cultivation at the expense of tree cover. For example, there are forests. So, forests are cut down. So, what happens to the forest? There will be no forest in that region, no trees in that region. So, it will result in rampant felling of trees, and that region is brought under the cultivation. So, what is the result of the rampant felling of trees? Let us understand in the next slide. Rampant felling of trees and mining activity is resulting in forest degradation along with the destruction of habitat of highly threatened flora and fauna. So, what is habitat of highly threatened flora and fauna? That is the animals and birds. Where do they survive? They survive in the forest. So, their homes will not be any more available to them to survive, and their lives comes under the threat. So, this is the result of rampant felling of trees, that is continuously the trees would get fall down, and even because of the mining activities, even for mining also so many trees also would get fell. So, that is how it results into the rampant felling of trees results into the following things. Then inadequate tree cover leads to water runoff at surface flow without getting a chance to recharge the underground water system. So, what is it? Inadequate tree cover, in the sense, if there are no trees, what would happen to the rainwater? The rainwater would fall at a greater speed to the down regions. So, with that what will happen? If the trees are there, water will get percolated deep inside the soil. So, if that does not happen, the water will flow in a greater speed. Okay. Inadequate tree cover leads to water runoff, means if there is no trees available, what will happen? The rainwater, it does not get percolated deep inside the soil and it will move off with a greater speed. It leads to less recharge of the underground water. Then, this also causes flash floods. This is also one of the reason for the occurrence of the flash floods. If we wish to be fair to both rain-fed and canal irrigated regions, so we must adopt a different plan for water conservation and a system of sharing water. So, to avoid all these things, to be fair towards the rain-fed as well as canal irrigation system. So, a different planning by the government is required. How to utilize the canal water, how to utilize the groundwater and the rainwater. A different planning is need of the time. Children, now let us study about the water storage capacity at the Tungabhadra dam. So, Tungabhadra dam has lost its water storage capacity over decades, means from so many decades. Earlier huge water would be able to during the times in few decades back, but now what has happened? About 50 years ago, the capacity of the reservoir was 3766 million cubic meters. Now, with accumulation of silt due to mining, silt, dust, soil erosion and debris, the reservoir has lost its storage capacity by as much as 849 million cubic meters of water. So, earlier Tungabhadra dam was having more capacity to store water, but now because of the silt, because of the debris and because of the mining activities and soil erosion. So, because of all these things, the capacity of Tungabhadra river basin has come down. The capacity of Tungabhadra dam has come down. It is not able to store as much as water as it used to store earlier. Children, now let us go for the next concept. Water is a flow resource. What is flow resource? That is, it is not a resource that we can keep it at one place, or it is located at one place. It will be always flowing. So, water is a flow resource and its storage or use upstream affects what is available to people downstream. In the sense, the people, how, for example, in an apartment, water tank is above the apartment. So, what would happen? How the water it is utilized in the upper region, it affects the water usage for the people who are living in the down region. So, it affects the water usage for the people who are living in the down region, and it depends upon how the water is utilized by the people in the upper region. So, water is shared on agreements between the state governments. So, it becomes compulsory for the state governments to have the talks about how to utilize the water of Tungabhadra river. Children, now let us go for the next concept, water for agriculture use. Let us study about the water for agriculture. Water is most important for agriculture. So, access to water is a precondition to farmland area. Without water, agriculture is completely impossible, is it not? So, nearly 80% of the population in this area, in this region, depends on agriculture for their livelihood. The major crops grown here include paddy, jawar, sugarcane, cotton and finger millets. Most of these crops are water consuming crops only, means they need a lot of water for their cultivation. Cultivation of such crops throughout the basin has dramatically altered the water sharing balance. Hence, there is a significant difference between farmers with access to land and irrigated water and those without access, means those who are having the land as well as access to water. Their condition is different from those who are having land and there is no irrigation facility to them. So, there is a vast difference between both farmers. Children, now let us study about the water usage for industrial purpose as well as the residential purpose and the people who are residing near the industrial regions. For them also a lot of water is required. So, let us see. Increasing trends of small towns and industrial areas from last 2 decades. From last 2 decades what has happened? There are number of regions that are forming, number of places, that is towns are getting created and even some of the slums are also getting formed. So, because of the industries So, they need a lot of water. At the same time, there are 27 large functioning industrial units. These industries also need a lot of water. At the same time, there are 2543 small industrial units are also located in this region. So, for all this, for the small towns and industrial areas, for the large industrial units and even for the small industrial units, there is a huge requirement of water. So, now let us study about the reasons for water pollution. So, in the industrial regions mainly. So, what can be the reasons for the water pollution? Let us understand. Earlier, industries were permitted to discharge effluents into the river. So, what are effluents, children? Yes, it is the wastewater that was allowed to discharge into the rivers by during the earlier times, but it was creating a lot of problem to the people. So, in the year 1984, they created the people started protesting. So, in the year 1984, there were protests regarding the discharge of molasses that killed fish on a large scale. So, in the year 1984, people started protesting And what is the reason for their protest? That is the discharge of molasses, that is the contaminated water is killing the fishes. So, the laws were made for to stop the discharge of water, and only treated effluents. What are treated effluents? That is the removal of all the bacteria as well as the solid particles from the water, that is called as treated effluent. So, such treated effluent should be passed on into the rivers. So, these laws were made, but these laws were not implemented forcefully. Hence, severe pollution in the river system continues. When the government has asked the people to go for treated effluents getting discharged into the rivers, but not untreated effluents. So, laws were made, but they were not implemented forcefully. Because of that, a lot of pollution is getting created in the river systems. Children, now let us understand socio-economic aspect are very important for water use management. Conflicts within the communities in a region and across the sectors such as use for agriculture, industry and drinking water. So, there are conflicts within the communities in the region, and also there are the conflicts for the use of water across the sectors, that is agriculture sector or industrial sector, or water is important for drinking purpose. So, these all are the various things to be thought of, and apart from this, there are also interstate disputes between Karnataka and combined Andhra due to transboundary nature of river. What is transboundary nature of the river? That is water flow in different states, that is Tungabhadra river flows in 3 different states. So, that is transboundary nature of river. So, because of this there are conflicts between the Karnataka, combined Andhra or Andhra and Telangana states. So, these are all the various things to be sorted off. So, now let us go for the next very important concept, that is rational and equitable use of water. Let us study about rational and equitable use of water. An example of Hivre Bazar. So, Hivre Bazar is selected under the Adarsh Gram Yojana of Maharashtra, that is Hivre Bazar is located in Maharashtra government, and Maharashtra government has selected Hivre Bazar under Adarsh Gram Yojana, and they wanted, the government has selected certain villages under Adarsh Gram Yojana and wanted an all-round development of those villages. So, Hivre Bazar is also one of such villages. Hivre Bazar is selected under Adarsh Gram Yojana of Maharashtra government and all-round development of village. So, at the time of late 1980s, the situation of Hivre Bazar was like this, like tree felling and open grazing was common among both rich and poor households, and soil erosion was prominent, means a lot of soil was getting eroded and groundwater levels were very low. There were low groundwater levels in that village. Fodder and fuel wood shortage was also common in the village. There was no fodder for the animals, no fuel wood for the cooking purpose, and though there was ban on free grazing, people were allowed to cut grass and carry it to feed animals. So, this was, now let us understand what has happened in Hivre Bazar after it has got adopted under Adarsh Gram Yojana. Look at this picture, children. So, these are the 4 bans which were the preconditions that were kept for the villages to get selected under Adarsh Gram Yojana. What are those? The first one is Kurhat Bandi. Kurhat Bandi is the ban on felling of trees. So, this is the first ban, and the second one is Charai Bandi, ban on free grazing, and the third one is family planning. So, all the people should adopt the family planning, and even Nasha Bandi. Nasha Bandi is ban on liquor. So, people also had to agree some amount of Shramdan, that is voluntary physical labor, except for the landless who were exempted from it. So, these were the 4 bands which were the preconditions for the villages to get themselves adopted for the Adarsh Gram Yojana. So, what had been done in that village? So, they dug the continuous counter trenches on the hill slopes to arrest the erosion of soil. So, first thing they did was the counter trenches were dug so that the soil erosion could be eroded, and harvesting of water and also encourage the growth of grass. A number of water harvesting structures were also built in the village, such as check dams, percolation tanks and also loose boulder structures. You can see here continuous counter trenches to arrest the soil erosion. The other bans in the village which were added later. So, what are the other bans which were later added? That is, they are the ban on borewell of irrigation, ban on borewells of irrigation, that is, no more borewells should be dug in the region, and also the next is ban on growing sugarcane and banana which needs a lot of water, and ban on selling one's land to any outsider. So, these were all the 3 bans which were kept even after the 4 compulsory bans after some of the years. What is the result of all these preconditions and after that the counter trenches were dug? Let us understand. So, the result is the area irrigated for summer crops has increased from 7 hectares to 72 hectares. In the year of normal rainfall, there is enough water in the wells to irrigate not only the Kharif Bajra, but also Rabi Jawar and some summer vegetables. So, only they were able to irrigate 7 hectares earlier to they were elected for the Adarsh Gram Yojana. So, from 7 hectares of land it increased to 72 hectares of the land which came under irrigation. Then during the normal rainfall years also there was enough water for them to store the wells. There was enough water in the wells to irrigate, and even they were able to go for the Kharif Bajra crop, and even for during Rabi season also they were able to cultivate jawar, and even during summer season also they were able to grow vegetables. A range of crops also considerably more diverse than in the past, people growing cash crops such as potatoes, onions, fruits such as grapes and pomegranates, and flowers as well as wheat. Means earlier they used to grow only few crops, but after this Adarsh Gram Yojana, they were able to grow so many other crops also. With that they were able to earn huge profits. The most significant development also has taken place. Let us see what is that. The most significant developments are increased water availability, which has made second crop possible, and improved wage employment, social control over groundwater extraction and use of no borewells, no water intensive crops like sugarcane, and water should be taken only through dug wells. So, these are all the various significant developments that occurred. So, there was water availability was there for the second crop, there were wages and employment for the laborers, and even social control over the groundwater extraction, and there was no more borewell. Water intensive crops such as sugar cane were stopped, and water was taken only for the dug wells. Even loans were given to the small farmers, and so that they can purchase the animals and milk giving animals especially, so that they can increase the milk production. So, the small farmers purchased milk animals and they were able to produce a lot of milk. So, loans were given to many small farmers. As a result, the number of milk animals in the village increased. Milk production in the village has also witnessed more than 20-fold increase from 140 to 3000 liters per day. So, there was huge milk production that took place in the village also, which gave about 20-fold increase in the milk production. So, in this way the Adarsh Gram Yojana project was more helpful and it has improved the lifestyle of the people of that village. So, I hope you have understood this concept of Adarsh Gram Yojana, children. Now, let us go for the next very important concept, that is water, a common pool resource. Over the past few decades, groundwater has become main source, especially for domestic use and agriculture. From past few decades, groundwater, because there are so many number of bore wells that are being dug and groundwater being extracted. So, it is more important for domestic use as well as for agriculture. So, the tremendous increase in the use of groundwater has significant impact on the availability and access to it. So, the tremendous increase in the usage of the groundwater for the domestic as well as for the irrigation, that is agriculture purpose, industrial purpose. Now, it has become more important for us to discuss to whom does this groundwater belongs. It is an important question to be thought of. Who owns the groundwater? The underground water does not obey human land ownership boundaries that are made on the surface. So, like on the surface, above the surface, we can draw the boundaries and we can say that this land belongs to you and this land belongs to me. But the underground water does not obey any boundaries under the land. It flows as if it is everything on every piece of land, and it does not obey any of the land boundaries as if it is on the above the surface of the soil. So, I hope you have understood that water is a common pool resource and it should be utilized by all without any restrictions, and there should be laws so that water could be utilized for everyone. It could be